Hey everyone, One Big Boss here, and we are back with another episode of New to Retro Review. Today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite two-player games of all time, and also one of the most challenging games I ever played when I was younger. And still to this day, it's quite the bitch to beat by yourself. So let's get into it. Episode 20, review of Contra 3, The Alien Wars for the Super Nintendo. Created back in 1992 for the Super Nintendo by Konami, Contra 3 was the next installment of the run-and-gun series, and jumping from the NES to the SNES, we see major changes in graphics and gameplay, and also newer weapons added to the game as well. Originally, the game was titled as Super Contra 4, but was changed in the end. This was presumably because the game Contra Force, which was a different NES game by Konami, in which they originally planned it to be the third game. Contra 3 is considered one of the best games in the series and was ported numerous times, such as to the Game Boy Advance, and I believe, the Wii's Virtual Console as well. The story takes place after the events of the first two Contra games. In the year 2636 AD, Neo City comes under fire from a mysterious alien attack from the sky. Within seconds, the entire city becomes a graveyard, and Red Falcon, whom has been defeated in the past games, appears once again and launches an all-out war on Earth. This time around, Billy Reiser and Lance Bean return to action because, for some odd reason, they are the only two people in the world who can defeat this alien race. With a big boost in graphics, Contra 3 still retains its former gameplay. You can run left or right and shoot anything in all directions in the oncoming enemies that are coming at you. Stages 2 and 5 also feature the top-down style format where you must find 5 enemies and destroy them to advance to the boss battle of the level. Also features that were added to this game was the SNES's Mode 7 3D animation, which happened when you turn left or right. It was really good on these levels. I felt that it did add a lot to the game. It wasn't overdone, it didn't seem cheap, it actually seemed to help the game separate itself from what made it great the first two times to this one. They also focused a little bit more on the midway boss battles. This time around it was more of not just running all the way to the end to get to the end where the boss was. This time you got a midway boss and you had to fight. And it was good too because it provided a challenge to where you could lose good weapons and stuff, and without two players it was actually kind of tough on the harder difficulties. The game stated your weapons also return as well, but Contra 3 also adds about, I think 2, maybe 3, a couple more extra weapons, which we will talk about right now. The default machine gun returns. It's not powerful by any means, but it fires fast with no pause and is good for taking out the weaker enemies that constantly flood the screens during the game. The laser gun seems to be the most powerful weapon in the game, and it's very, very handy during boss battles. As a kid, I barely used it due to its flaws. It takes a long time to fire off another shot once one's fired, and it fires straight and you can't alter its course or anything. Though, in the top-down levels, it fires continuous lasers and can rip right into enemy bosses. I'll tell you, it's really a handy weapon on those levels, but even boss battles like this, it's really, really a good weapon to have. The flamethrower, and my personal favorite weapon, launches a continuous flame and has a decent range on it. I normally save these or the lasers for the boss fights, but the weapon's kind of weak. Continuously firing an enemy with it will end up taking them down pretty quickly though. It is really a good weapon to have because if enemies just keep coming at you and stuff like that, this continuous weapon will drain their life off pretty quick. The shotgun, or the spread gun as I call it, returns and still fires off a wide blast of red bubbles, and it's a pretty good weapon to use when enemies are coming at you from all directions. Though don't use it on boss battles because honestly it's not that strong. Heat-seeking missiles, or homing missiles, are powerful missiles that track all enemies on the screen and rarely miss their targets. A fan favorite and something that they usually keep in hand as a backup weapon in this game. Honestly, I do like this weapon because you do get a lot of range on it. You also just get the tracking ability where in a boss battle like this with two enemies, it won't miss a target and something's always going to get hit, so you can't go wrong with using these missiles, really. The final gun is the Crash Bomb. It's a gun that I rarely use. It's short on range, and the firing speed is pretty bad. It's really slow, and it leaves you very vulnerable. The only upside to it is the explosions it leaves may take out nearby enemies wandering onto the screen, which sometimes is a really good weapon to have. And of course, everybody, we do have this weapon, the bomb. Perfect on bosses, or when you're being overwhelmed by enemies on the screen. But the problem is that the blast grows pretty large and it's slow, and if you don't use it the right way, you could miss hitting a boss or getting a good amount of damage. Plus, it also slows down the screen as well. Another feature added to the game is the ability to dual-wield guns in this by holding L and R down while your character leaps into the air, shooting in all different directions, or like this, you spin around like a crazy top. But some weapons, unfortunately, don't work as well with others when combining this technique. Okay, so we've arrived at the place where nobody likes, but it's gotta be done. Let's get the bad out of the way first, and it's pretty low on the bad side, which is good. It leaves more room to talk about what's great about this game. As for what I didn't like about this game, as tough as the game gets, I believe more lives should have been given when you play on hard mode, at least 10 lives. The game was tough enough on normal, but by yourself on hard mode, even on normal, you find yourself hopelessly outnumbered and losing a lot of lives from a barrage of enemies. You know, I mean, I just didn't understand why they didn't include at least 10 for the higher level. I don't know. Also, there was a severe lack of story in this game. You pretty much just run and gun through each level. I figured with this being on the SNES, we could have, incorporated some cutscenes into it because we had amazing boss battles, like we could have had dialogue, thrown in some, like, serious, like, major enemy players into this, kind of like they did in Contra Hardcore for the Sega. Though I believe that was released, I think a year or two maybe after this game was released on the Super Nintendo. My last complaint about the game was how it didn't have a password system, nor did it have a cheat system, at least on the American version of the game. I found that a bit strange. The Japanese version of this game, you could have a level select and a, like the level select, and I believe there was like a infinite live thing as well, probably like the Konami code or something like that. But I couldn't understand why that was excluded in the Super Nintendo, since the Super Nintendo was like an era where there was a code for almost anything, I just don't understand why they didn't throw that into this game. And now, here's what I like about the game, which is pretty much everything else. I mean, the music was great. Even these little ending themes right here where it goes da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da. I have that as a ringtone on my phone, and I gotta tell you, like, it never gets old. It's great. The music for every level seemed to fit perfectly. It got you amped up to play this game. Weapon-wise, I pretty much liked almost all the weapons. There were a few that I didn't like, but, for now, I usually use the, well, actually, when I was a kid, I always used the flamethrower and the machine gun. The missiles, the homing missiles, because those, I thought, were the coolest things. Plus, out of all my friends, I was the best with the flamethrower. We'd always save that for, like, hordes during two-player mode. Like, one of us or two of us would carry it, and we'd make sure to save that as a reserve. It was great. I also loved the boss battles in this game. I thought they were really great. They were challenging. Frustrating at times, yeah, but, honestly, it's what made the game. I thought that the bosses were great, well thought out. Some were easier than others, but, I can't really complain and say anything bad about the boss battles in this game. The highway bike level was amazing. I thought that this was really a fun yet challenging level. I can't say anything bad about it. It was a blast. I mean, yeah, you may have lost the guns that you had that were good, and you pretty much die pretty easily, so you better waste those bombs while you can. And the second part of that level, the helicopter one, was great. That was just an awesome battle. If you didn't have the right weapons, it made it tough, but also where you wanted to keep going. It was just that awesome. The true power of this game is in its co-op mode. Going alone is fun yet suicidal, but with a friend it makes the game amazingly fun, and honestly I feel that it's something that newer games today have slacked on because of the online. I know I state this a lot, but there are games on the Xbox Live and the PSN that have two-player games like these. It's a throwback to the old days. It's, keeping a dying genre alive that I believe that you can make great games out of still today. It's just something that I firmly believe in, and that's what I thought made this game really great. Alright everyone, so is Contra 3 The Alien Wars the game you want to play or buy? Well, if you want a challenging old-school shooting game, then by all means, this is yours. And with it available on the Wii's Virtual Console, you have no reason not to try it out. You don't have to go online and pay a ridiculous amount of money for the cartridge for the Super Nintendo when you can download it for like $10 off the Wii's Virtual Console. You know what I mean? Even if people never played Contra, they will enjoy this. I've come across many people over the years who I've introduced this game to, and honestly, they thought it was an amazing series, and one that's still popular even today, especially with Contra Uprising, I believe it was called, for the PSN. I think I have it, too. I actually have to go back and check on that. But yeah, even if it gets hard, you can switch the levels to easy and adjust the lives. You know, just don't bother putting it in the level select code because, like I said, there is none for the American one, unless you got a Japanese game. There's a hidden ending to the game as well, and there's also plenty of replay value for it as well. I mean, you don't really unlock that much stuff, but it'll still keep you entertained for a while. Unless you get really ticked off and you snap your controller in two because of the difficulty. Because, honestly, this game can be frustrating at times, much like the original Ninja Gaiden, and hell, the original Contra on the NES. That was a pretty tough game too, because, you know, one hit, you're dead kind of thing. How much more realistic can you get? Alrighty, well, that just about does it for yet another New to Retro review. If you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up button, comment, and subscribe, if you would be so kindly, because it's free, and in this day and age, well, like I always say, free's a damn good thing. Next week is our Season 1 finale, and for that, I picked, for episode 21, Mega Man X4 for the PlayStation 1. Undoubtedly one of the, if not greatest games in the X series. This had everything in it, and especially something a lot of X players wanted since Mega Man X2. Zero. You get a game where you can finally play as the dude himself for the entire game. No getting to a midway boss or the boss of the level and switching out back to X and have him take over. You get to play as Zero yourself. This was a game that jumped right from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation and is just a true gem. So, join us next week for the Season 1 finale. It's sure to be one to remember. So, until then, I will see you all next time.